don't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, and I can't even describe it. There wasn't like a specific, again, plan. I didn't say I want to, do this or do that, but the thought that I cannot bear to be here anymore. I'm failing. I can't do this. Like everyone's better off. Like,
It was just too
yeah,
much. Yeah.
too much.
Hi, guys. I'm your host, Megan Van Diepender, and this is the Empowerhood Podcast. I am so happy to have you here. Motherhood is hard, and we are going to talk about all of the hard things that just are not talked about enough. So, buckle up and enjoy this episode.
So, hi, Amanda.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you so much for being here again. Second time's better,
Thanks for
right?
having me. I know, right?
But yeah, no, I'm so happy to have you here. Everyone out there listening in today, we have Amanda C here with us. And Amanda, I'm not even going to attempt to say your last name. How do you say it?
Coutsoumbos.
Coutsoumbos. Oh, it's actually easier than I thought. Okay, like looking at it, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm going to butcher this. Coutsoumbos. Okay. So Amanda is here today to talk with us about, her motherhood journey and battling with postpartum depression, how it looks different really during every postpartum period for each of her children. And, all of the resources and support she was able to find to be able to help her through these hard times. And Amanda, I really appreciate you being here because I feel like this is so common, to have postpartum depression or postpartum blues, and it's just not spoken about enough. So I really am so proud of you, and you're super brave.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So why don't you start with a little bit about you and start from the beginning?
The beginning. Well, I'm a mom of three. I had my first when I was 25 or 26. She was a preemie, so my motherhood journey was kind of thrust at me. I thought I had more time. I didn't even know what a preemie was uh, before. Nobody I know had a baby anything other than full term, so I'd never seen a baby that tiny.
How early was she?
She was like 3 months early. She was like
Wow.
29 weeks, so
Wow. Wow.
just under 3 months. Yeah, she was 3 pounds. So for she was a big preemie, I suppose you can say. So
At
we
three
were very
pounds.
lucky. Yeah, yeah, no, seriously. And we were very lucky in the sense that she didn't have any like really big deficits, like no breathe. She had to be on a breathing tube for maybe a day. Uh, she kept ripping it out, so they were like, "Well, we'll just try her." And she just needed to grow. And I know I a little bit sound spoiled in the sense that like I'm not complaining, but it was really hard to watch that like just sit and wait. It's like hurry up and wait.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 weeks later, exactly 6 weeks, we were busting out of there. And I don't think that's until when like I started to get hit with all those crazy emotions because
Yeah.
you're in autopilot, like just being
Yeah.
strong for this tiny human, just doing everything you can to help and get her out of there. I mean, I was attempting to pump and I didn't even have anything coming out yet. Like, so when
Right.
they're trying to give her anything, we were a small little syringe with less than an ounce, but still enough for like a cotton swab was a big deal.
Wow.
So,
My God, you're giving me goosebumps. Because, yeah, you had her so early, your milk supply wasn't even in. I
it
guess,
didn't
like,
even catch up yet.
wow. What were you able to do while she was in the NICU? Like, were you able to touch her or hold her or anything like that?
So for the first couple weeks, she could only come out one time. My husband
Wow.
didn't even hold her, I think, until she was maybe 2 or 3 days old. And then after that, we'd have to alternate. And I was spending, in the first couple weeks, I was spending all my time there. I could reach in, her isolette, there were little holes, and I was dying for
Oh, my
diaper
God.
change time. I was waiting for her to pee, which is so crazy.
Right.
You're like, come on, let's just pee so I can open this up and get a smell of you.
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
so that was difficult. But again, we were on autopilot that I didn't even realize how much it bothered me until when I was telling people, and I thought it was normal. People like, wasn't that terrible? I'm like, oh, I guess so.
Oh my
Like, yeah,
God.
that sucks.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, so
Yeah,
then
not
after a
normal at
while,
all. That is not normal
no.
at all.
So
Yeah.
to me, I was like, meh,
Right, and it was
you
your
know,
first baby too, so you didn't really like have anything to
no
compare it
idea.
to. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I was so, when she came home, I was so excited that people like my brothers and sisters, half of them were under, I think the age was like 16 maybe that you could come into the NICU.
Okay.
So uh, Clancy and Ian definitely couldn't come. Clancy snuck in one day being like, yeah, I'm 14. Like, but nobody, like nobody could come. Like, and even the people that could come, I didn't know until the last couple of days. I didn't even know they could. I thought it was just parents.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I mean, not even being able to have your family there. I just like you're going through this crazy event and just to not even have I mean, obviously they're supporting you, but to not have them present in the room with you during this hard
Yeah,
time must have been so hard for you.
like you know my family, you know us from
Yeah.
way far back. You know how close we all are. So that for me was particularly difficult. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Did you feel like during the time that it was just like a whirlwind, like that everything's moving super fast around you, but you're not moving within that moment, like when she's not gaining
yes,
weight, you're not able to take her out, like that type of thing?
yeah, yeah, and especially looking back, like in
Right.
that moment, I'm like, it was like I said, she just had to learn to regulate her body temp, eat,
Mm,
like suck and swallow, and
right.
um, not not have like spells of like bradycardia where she'd like stop breathing.
Wow.
Like that was the big thing. She needed to have 5 consecutive, I think, days of no Brady spells before she could come home.
Wow.
And the I think she was on like day 4.5. We were like moving. We didn't even move yet. We were like had a house, like a new house to move into. We went so like everything was so crazy, and we were on like day 4.5, and we had like in the middle of moving, the doctor called me and they're like, "Hey, she just had a spell," and I'm like, "God damn it!" So
Yeah.
it starts all over again,
Right.
and that I
Right.
think
Devastating.
those were the
Devastating.
hardest moments. Those were the hardest moments of like we're ready. Once she was finally ready, and that was the last piece of the puzzle to come home. That was everything up leading up to that was almost like I can't believe the last 5 weeks just happened.
I
Like,
I can't even like imagine what you were going through. So like cuz I mean just those events in themselves would cause such an amount of stress and like trying to find hope, within the situation. Like
hmm
that could put you into a depression right there, but you just birthed a child. So you're in your postpartum period earlier than you thought.
yep,
You just went through delivery and then you have to throw yourself into this like fight or flight state to keep your daughter alive and be there
that's
for
exactly
her.
what it was. Like I was in a constant state of fight or flight, and
Yes.
then a little bit of I've worked through it with my therapist because like there are times where like I still get hit with it. Like around her birthday,
Yeah.
when I see like all these memories pop up, I'm like, I'm so lucky
Yeah.
that nothing went terribly wrong. But like you almost NICU life is weird because her little neighbor didn't survive. You almost have like
Wow.
survivor's guilt, and you're like, okay, be grateful for what you have because this mom is
Oh my
going through
God.
like my best day of getting her out of there was another person's worst day.
Right.
So it's like that kind of all factored into it. Like I thought about that baby a lot when I got home, and
Wow.
then after I got home, there was a lot of people, and for a while I was so happy because there were they could walk around a room with her. I could go take a shower and
Right.
have someone sit here and
And know
feed
she
her
was
or
okay. Right.
yes. But I got where it became kind of tricky for me and where the postpartum like anxiety and depression came in was when I didn't know how to ask for space. Like
Okay.
I craved those moments with just my baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still, it's like I was torn between being excited and wanting everyone around, but also the part of grieving those very first moments that I didn't get to have caught up with me. And I was like, I pushed everyone kind of away. I was like, okay,
Okay.
I'm done. And
Yeah.
my mom was the only person that was like, you're not an alone person. What's going on?
Right.
And I couldn't, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I need these moments with my baby. I'm so grateful for the help. And everyone's like, let me take her. Like, let me do this, let me do that. And I hadn't been able to do all that by myself yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got really anxious about the idea of people after it's like a switch. I was so excited, then I was so anxious.
Right.
And
And you
it just kind of,
isolated, right? You
yeah.
isolated. Yeah.
Oh yeah, big time. Even my husband was like, he like shoved a gift certificate like for the nail salon in front of me and was like, I got this. Go use it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, 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 but like I'll miss her. Like we finally have a minute alone with her. He's like, but I have her and I want that time with her too. And you need to get out of this house.
Right.
And
so it felt like you were trying
like
to
that
like
with Julian too.
Okay. So you were trying to like
Different
almost like
reason.
make up for that lost time that you had for her, or if you just felt, well, I mean, I can't even imagine the anxiety you were feeling even coming home from the hospital. I just like just in itself to have your child home and she was a preemie, and just to make sure that she was okay after like going through spells of like where she wasn't breathing, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, I just like having that on your mind, I feel like, and having PTSD from all of this stuff. I
That's
just
exactly
like,
what it is.
yeah, I can't even imagine. And I think it's understandable to want that time. But I think did you feel like there was a difference between like being isolated and actually having your space? Like, would you say there's a difference between those two things?
Absolutely. Having you enjoy having space. When I was isolating, I was anxious and
Mm-hmm.
like I don't even know how to explain it really. Like there was just yeah.
It just didn't
I
feel
was
right.
happy, but no.
Yeah.
No.
So what happened?
And I
Like, what
thought
did you
going back to
do?
work would help. I went
Yeah.
back to work and I went back to work actually when she was in the hospital for a little bit. Because and then God I did because I had 6 weeks of time
Mm-hmm.
and I would have had to go back to work the day she came home.
Right.
So I went back to work for a little while. That did help me break up the day and have adults to talk to. There's like I don't know if you feel the same, but work besties and like work besties are like people that know everything about your life,
Mm-hmm.
but also nobody in it. I could talk about Chris, I could talk about Thea, I could talk about, anybody in my life. And they're like, oh yeah, like we know of them. And having that, like, it was so nice to just like get back to that and be able to vent or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then once she came home, my like my coping and alone time was like I went on a lot of walks.
Mm-hmm.
I tried yoga. I tried like all these things, but I didn't even know about like myself at that point. It even took a long time to like discover like what I like. Like everyone tells moms, "Oh, do yoga," or wait till the kids are sleeping, have a glass of wine. Like this workout culture, the wine culture, it doesn't like I think until after I had Julian, I really and put in the work, especially after everything that happened this past winter. I finally discovered what works for me. And I almost feel guilty because you realize that after Thea, after Violet, even after Julian a little bit, it was all autopilot.
Yeah.
I was going out and doing all the things, trying to find myself, but it's very difficult. You lose yourself a little bit.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very easy to, or not everyone does, but it's
Yeah.
very easy to lose yourself in motherhood and pregnancy and
Yeah, you really have
postpartum.
to redefine yourself. But I mean, that, I think redefining yourself, like amongst feelings of depression and anxiety is really hard, right? Because like you said, you're trying to find yourself again already,
Yeah,
but then you're feeling all these like not you feelings. So you feel totally outside your body, I assume. So did you get help
exactly.
with Thea? After Thea, did you get help?
hmm
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like playing. It was kind of like playing like therapist roulette a little bit. Having the right therapist is super important if you're going to really commit to helping yourself
Mm-hmm.
and putting in that work to find out why you're so anxious or good coping skills or whatever. It took about a year after I had Thea to really find a good match, and by then I was pregnant with Violet.
Okay.
So then the pregnancy hormones took into effect, and
Right.
thank God I found her. I've been with her since I was pregnant with Violet. So
Okay. No, did you reach out yourself or like how did it come about that you decided you wanted to get help?
I talked to my mom a lot. My mom, as you know, has had 8 kids,
Yep.
so she knows she knows all the feelings. And when I was telling her, I didn't even know that like what I was feeling was due to like or had anything to do with hormones and
Yeah.
postpartum and stuff. She's like, your fourth trimester lasts technically the first year. The first 12 months are all considered
Mm-hmm.
fourth trimester. And I didn't get that.
Yeah.
She's like, I feel like you're what you're describing to me. Cause I was like, I don't feel myself. I want to feel happy. And I feel like sometimes I feel happy, but not all the time. And she's like, I feel like you might need a little bit of, she's like, not help. Like, I don't want to tell you you need help, but, just someone to help
Some
you work through
support.
these.
Some support. Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom was great through all that. She sat with me and called, like, I had my insurance fax over or email over a list of different therapists that take our insurance, and she sat with me and we kind of went through and found people that we thought would work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a process,
Yeah.
but
It worked out though. I mean, it took a
like I
bit, but
said,
you found someone that
yeah,
you really, really depend on. Yeah. And trust. I mean, I think
oh
that's
yeah,
huge because I mean, this is like your best friend, right? Like you tell them every single little
oh
thing
yeah,
about you and you need to feel like you can trust them. So I think
yeah.
that's huge. And this kind of set you up, for your next pregnancy and with Julian as well, that you already had this
Mhm.
therapist in place, right? Now, did
Yes.
you know, I guess after going through this with Thea, obviously your next children weren't preemies, but like did you know what to expect feeling wise or was it completely different?
Um, they kind of gave me the warning signs. We did take precautions, especially with Violet. I was on these progesterone shots from 16 weeks until 36.
Okay.
And they were like, they watched my blood pressure like a hawk. They
Hmm.
watched everything that could, like, the at my scans, they measured me they measured the baby, they measured me to make sure no dilation, no shortening, all that, because we have no like medical reason why Thea came so early.
Okay.
And that's like a whole nother topic of like almost you feel guilty. Like, was it something I did? Because if it wasn't her or nothing was wrong with her, then it had to have been me. And in
Well,
reality, that's not true. But
right. I mean, not necessarily. But
like
I get what
that's
you're
just how
saying
your
though.
brain works.
Yeah.
That's just how
Yeah.
my brain works. So I found a doctor that was pro progesterone, and we made it through that, and they watched me. They watched me, and it was scary.
Mm.
It's like the more you know, the scarier it is. Like
Yeah.
even with Julian, because Violet, my pregnancy with V was pretty easy
Mm-hmm.
considering.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was same with Thea. I had minimal nausea. I was tired, but I also had a baby at home.
Yeah.
It was so it was all in my mind. The challenges with Violet's pregnancy were all in my mind.
It was all mental. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also so understandable because you just went through a traumatic event with Thea. And like, how far apart is Thea and Violet?
Like 16 months.
Yeah, so like you really like you probably were just starting to recover,
Yeah.
from your postpartum period, to going to getting pregnant again and delivering another child. So that's like a quick turnaround,
Yeah.
mentally and physically, for sure.
When we found out with V, I went to the emergency room thinking I had kidney stones, and they were like, "No, you just have very bad back pain
Oh no.
because of the pregnancy." And I was like, "I'm getting married in 3 days." What? Like,
Wait, how far along were you when you found out?
Like, I probably wouldn't have even popped up positive if I did an at-home test. But like, I went to the emergency room in a panic, being like, I'm getting married in like 3 days. I have my rehearsal tomorrow, and I think I have kidney stones. And they
Oh my God,
they
that's
loaded
hilarious.
me up on pain meds first before they told me. So on top of being in shock, I was also all loopy.
Oh my goodness. So
But that was the most excitement I had with her.
right.
So
Right. And her delivery was fine and she was full term, right? Everything went smoothly. Okay. So when did the postpartum like depression and anxiety come in for you with Violet?
I'd say, I don't know. I'd say like maybe she was about a month or two. Like when everything started to finally regulate in, my body. Like we got everything was crazy until we got her into a routine, and then all of a sudden we're in a routine and I'm still not feeling better. I recognized it quicker with her than I did with Thea.
Okay.
Um,
What were you feeling, Amanda?
I was feeling a whole bunch of anxiety, which made me not sleep. It made me super ragey. Like I was losing patience with Thea, who was like 18 months at the time. I mean, I wasn't screaming or whatever, but in my mind, I was very short.
Yeah.
And the more she was sleeping through the night and I wasn't, because I was the intrusive thoughts. That's what's the worst with this. And I know a lot of moms can relate. Your intrusive thoughts are like, is she breathing? You might not want to fall asleep because, she might not be breathing when you wake up. Like it's crazy. And I know everyone says that, like about the first time their baby sleeps through the night, you're like,
yeah.
But the more regulated she got, the more dysregulated I got.
Yeah.
And sleep has always been, when I get anxious, I don't sleep. I know some people like sleep away the day if they're feeling some sort of way, and I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
So that was that snowball for me. Like I have pictures of myself from when my kids were babies, and you don't even recognize yourself. You have bags down to here. You just look like a shell.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I saw one of those that I was like, oh. That's when I started turning to medication again. I'd been kind of on and off throughout the years, and when I had babies and stuff, I kind of stopped it, which is the wrong thing to do if you're on medication. Coming off of it is just, it could almost make you worse than when you were. So
yeah, it's funny you say that because I have the podcast coming out this weekend is a reproductive psychiatrist, and so she manages medications for women that want to get pregnant and continue their medications while they're pregnant. That's like a big part of it. And I think exactly what you're saying. She says that she's just like, the worst thing that you can do is come off of your medication. You just need to know what to take and how to take it while you're pregnant and be able to manage that. So, yeah. So continue. So you got off your medication, you went back on it.
I went back on it, but the funny thing about medications, for me at least, when your hormones all change when you have kids. I had a medication that I was on from 18 to after I had Thea, and when I tried to go back on it after Violet, something in my body had changed. Like they say, like, oh, if you get like a full body rash after taking this, it's very dangerous. Stop immediately. And I was like, that's not going to happen to me. I've been taking it forever. And boom.
Wow.
The whole, like, it was so bad. So then I'm back at square one, and that makes you anxious as well, being like, now I have to start over.
Yeah.
Because when you take medicine, when you find the right one for you, it's literally trial and error.
Yeah.
Even the best doctors in the entire world, no two persons the same. So they can't be like, oh, you have bipolar 2. This will definitely work for you.
Yeah.
And that's the other side of it. Like, I think I mentioned early on in the first time we did this, like, I also have bipolar disorder. That wasn't diagnosed until later, until I was like in my 20s.
Yeah. Which is
so
another medication, right? So is that a different medication? Okay. So did that medication still continue on for you, like, after? No. So you had to switch up all your medications after Violet. Okay. Okay. Yep. How long did that take to regulate everything?
Until like right now.
Really?
Like,
wow.
Yeah.
Because you said, I know.
I found the perfect combo.
Now, okay. Because you said with Julian, too, it was the worst, right? Postpartum depression was the worst with Julian. So do you think that has something to do with not being able to figure out the medication before your third child?
I definitely think that's a piece. Yeah, I definitely think that's a piece of it. Julian was also a very special circumstance, too, because he was born during a huge surge of COVID. So on top of being isolated for however many years we were, then it's almost like with Thea, I isolated myself on purpose. With Julian, I craved human interaction, like people, because we hadn't had that for so long. And then boom, like nobody could come over. Then him and the rest of my family got COVID. So nobody, even though he was so cute and squishy and adorable, nobody's going to come over except my dad, because I'm pretty sure my dad gave us COVID.
Thanks, Dad.
He's okay. He came over because he had just recovered, but still, like, yeah. But then, that all came crashing down.
Right. Yeah, that period was so hard, I think, on so many parents, in general, but especially if you just had a child and, you can't get help, right? I mean,
no.
Like, when you have a baby, I don't know how many times I feel like a broken record, like, you need help. You need people to be there for you,
yes.
And COVID definitely.
You need your village.
Yeah. And COVID really prevented that. So how did it affect your mental state, I guess? So you're home, no one can come over, you guys get sick, you have 2 other little ones. Like, what happens?
You go into autopilot again.
Yeah, survive.
That's the only way I can describe it again, is that, like, fight or flight. Like, in a whole separate topic, like, COVID already took years off my life. And that is because my anxiety wasn't being managed well. So throw in a global pandemic and the news telling people that everyone's dying. Like,
yeah. I mean, I think that was like a huge concern for everyone, right? I mean, like, I think everyone's anxiety just skyrocketed. So if you're already having trouble with your anxiety and you add COVID in,
that was like the tip. That was like the beginning of the end for me, was COVID, isolation. The fact that I lost 3 pregnancies before getting pregnant with Julian.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, all of this just hits at once, and then add in all the
Yeah.
postpartum,
Oh my God,
you know,
Amanda, I'm so sorry. That must have been
I
horrible.
got, yeah, I got postpartum preeclampsia. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Postpartum
you
eclampsia.
get the gist.
Yep.
Um,
After Julian.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Hmm.
Didn't know that was a thing at all. But I think I just thought my blood pressure wasn't great in the hospital because he wasn't feeding well. Wasn't sleeping. I would go right back to staying up all night. And my blood pressure was super bad. And then they were like, watch for this, and this when you go home from the hospital. And when you know it, my leg blows up like a balloon.
Oh my
My
God.
ribs start burning, and I'm like, I need help. And then I went back to the hospital, and there were, it looked like, Megan, it looked like a movie, like a horror movie. Like there were people over here that were there with a stomach bug. There were people that couldn't breathe, which I'm assuming was COVID, and babies there that couldn't breathe because it was also RSV season. And like that was it for a while. That was it. I cracked and couldn't go back.
Wow.
Like
Well, they were able to
I
help
could
you
not.
though with the preeclampsia though, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, they
okay.
put me on some blood pressure meds for a little while. But I went back. They were like, "There's a 16-hour wait, but don't leave because, um, that's against medical advice." I'm like, 16 hours? That would be 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Like,
I have a baby.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a 5-day-old baby, and I can't risk whatever all these people have. But that right there, that was my breaking point
Okay.
for my mental, like where it started with Julian, and it
Yeah.
started so much earlier. You 5 days old, and I had already had a nervous breakdown,
Wow.
and it was ebbs and flows and ebbs and flows, and I couldn't find the right medication. I was either raging or crying, and then good days peppered in between,
Yeah.
but um, but then we all got sick again, and I didn't sleep, I think, for like 3 weeks, more than like 2 hours at a time.
Oh my
And
God.
I broke.
Yeah.
And that's when I went to the emergency room, and I was like, I need help. I don't feel safe around myself. There were no like plans of harm, but there was that thought of, I don't want to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, and I can't even describe it. There wasn't like a specific, again, plan. I didn't say I want to, do this or do that, but the thought that I cannot bear to be here anymore. I'm failing. I can't do this. Like everyone's better off. Like,
It was just too
yeah,
much. Yeah.
too much, too much.
Yeah.
So,
Now, when you went to the emergency room, like how did they help you? Did they send you to your therapist or like how did they help you?
well, they were completely overbooked that night. So I think giving me uh, just that space, they took everything that they took my necklaces, they took my watch, they took my rings, they took my phone charger, like everything I had. And I knew at that moment, like, okay, this is serious. Like I just sat there, and they didn't really they didn't really do anything. I sat there and waited for a doctor for like 6 hours.
Wow.
And, but it was weird that like the redirection of it all, like it was so busy and chaotic. Like I wasn't in like a psychiatric portion of the hospital. I
Mm.
was in like the emergency triage. Like there was a drunk guy over here. It was New Year's Eve, so it was
Oh,
lots of
wow.
drunk people, lots of people coming in through the ambulance, and it was weird that like spending 6 hours being like, oh my goodness. They were like, do you have a therapist? Yes. Do you have someone who can prescribe medication that you can get in touch with ASAP? And I did. I had an appointment for like the 2nd of January. I just needed to get there,
Yeah.
not the second,
Yeah.
some second week in January. And I just needed to get there, but I felt like I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. And they're like, okay, well, if you feel like you're not a danger to yourself, if you have no plans to do anything and only thoughts, I want you to try to try to sleep. Well, that's what we're prescribing you. You need to go home and you need to sleep and call your therapist the very first thing in the morning. And I had already told her that I was there, so she was in touch with me, and that's what I did. It was almost weird, like I couldn't sleep before then, but hearing doctor, it was almost like they gave me the permission. You need to sleep. I went
Yeah.
home and I slept about 14 hours that night.
Wow.
And I still woke up feeling exhausted mentally, like I was like emotionally hungover.
Yeah.
Like, in the next few days were kind of like that. Like I was, texting my mom at 2 a.m. being like, I need to go back. Like I don't feel like I can do this. And she's like, you can do this. And this is your rock bottom. That's what it was my rock bottom.
Yeah.
The only place to go from there was up. And she's like, you need to choose to put in the work, and it's going to be the hardest. And I did.
Yeah.
Like, because I never want to feel like that again.
Yeah.
And it's funny when people are like, are you going to try for another baby? And it's like, do I want a big family? Yes, but that scared me enough that I will no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it got progressively worse
Right.
with each kid. And then you're like, and it
Right.
manifests so differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to think of yourself, right? Because, like, I mean, I'm sure in those moments you're like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am as a mom, right? Like you knew it wasn't you.
No.
So, like, to put yourself through that again and risk not being you and having to, like, fight for yourself like you did, like, I can totally see why you wouldn't choose to do that. And I don't think you should ever feel guilty about that. You have 3 beautiful children and you're back now,
Exactly.
right? Like, you're you.
Yeah.
Do you feel now that you know yourself better than ever?
That's exactly what I was going to say. In the moment, it was terrible and it was all bad and I felt like I would never survive. But on the flip side, it helped me get to know myself, find myself, prioritize myself. I don't think my husband is awesome. If I said I need to do this, I need to do that, he will be like, great, you can. But I didn't know how to even ask him or tell him I needed to whatever. So he allowed that, knowing what I know and putting in that work allows me to prioritize things like sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say, like just last night, I was like, listen, I'm feeling some sort of way. I'm gonna turn in early. Like, you got all this? And he said, yep, no problem. And before I would feel so guilty.
Yeah.
So guilty.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about this because I feel like it's such a stigma out there that if we're not constantly doing something or constantly doing something for our family, that we feel guilty that we're not doing enough, right? And I know that's like such a common feeling with women and moms in general, and it's just not true. Like, taking care of your needs, like if you hadn't taken care of yourself, how are you supposed to take care of your children? You have to be able to take care of yourself.
I saw a thing online. It was like, I don't know who needs to hear this, what women need to hear this, but taking a shower and doing basic needs by yourself isn't self-care, isn't a treat. It's literally what we need to do. And that like kind of like hit me because I would like thank my husband being like, thanks for keeping them down here so I could take an uninterrupted shower, or thanks for letting me grab a nap. And I'm like,
like, these are actually like essential things. Right. No, I totally agree. I mean, that's pretty much my business model as a women's health coach, because it's like, it's the real self-care, right? It's stuff that we actually have to have. So like sleeping, hygiene, taking some time alone with our thoughts, just for our mental health and all of these things, moving your body. They're things that we actually have to do so we can show up as the people that we want to be. I mean, luxuries are more like nails, hair, all that stuff that are great too, but that's not self-care. Taking care of yourself is like how am I going to show up today with my energy, with my patience, being the person that I want to be or who I am, that's taking care of yourself. And it's not something that should be like negotiable. It's just like, it should be regular, and we should not feel guilty in any way or selfish in doing that. Yeah. Well, and I think you kind of got
my shirt today.
I know, I noticed it. I love it.
Self-love club, and I had this super cute outfit that I wanted to wear today, and it's pouring like crazy here, and my hair got all wet anyways. But I was like strolling through Target, and it like jumped at me. I was like,
I love it.
How perfect for a podcast about mental health. And
right. And and I think like you kind of got shoved into all this mental health stuff with postpartum depression, but I mean, how do you feel now? Like I said, I mean, it must have changed you, right? Do you feel like you're so grown now, like mentally and physically?
Yeah, I feel it's weird. Like on one hand, like I feel like there are some instances where I'm like, I don't feel like a grown up. I don't feel like I'm grown up enough to like be doing things. Like I'm one of the youngest in one of the school, like Thea's grade, and I'm like, seeing all these moms have their stuff together, I don't feel grown up enough for this. But also when I make it like now part of my life's work to advocate for mental health and to be open and honest. Like, I know you had reached out after you saw a Facebook post I made, and Facebook isn't a huge platform, but also like, I feel like I have grown in all aspects, like with self-care and self-love. I learned how to love myself. I learned so many different ways to cope and to get myself kind of out of tough situations, and I can relay them to like other people. And all, like when they're going, like one of my best friends is going through a divorce right now, and she is down.
Yeah.
And her mental health took a toll, and she called me because she's like, you're the only person I know that's been through it like this. Like, I need your secrets. And it's nice in that sense. But like, I almost feel too grown. Like, I know I've learned too much almost.
Like for your age too. Yeah.
Yeah. People my age are still like, I don't know. I was the first to have kids, and then almost, no.
It's okay. Yeah. Because you're my brother's age, and I mean, you are super young to have 3 children and to have been through, everything that you've been through.
Yeah.
But like, I see it as like when I saw your post on Facebook, and you say it's not a huge platform, but like, even, speaking about it there and helping one person, and like a lot of the women that come on here and talk with me, it's like, they're like, if my story helps one person, then it's worth it. And that's really like, that's what we're here for, to put the resources that you use, to put the support out there, and be like, your feelings are valid. They might not be exactly like yours, Amanda, but like what you're feeling postpartum, what you're feeling if you're going through traumatic events, it matters, and it could be something, and you can still reach out for support and help and not question like how you're feeling.
Yes, exactly. Knowing my family too, know that like the last couple of years have been crummy with traumatic events left and right, with the loss of my brother and my stepdad, and I definitely think those had a way of kind of pushing me into a mental state too.
Yeah.
Especially after Julian was born. I think because they had met my other 2 kids. And I feel it's almost like a selfish feeling too, like being like sad that like, even though I was the only one who had kids that they met, that they weren't going to get to meet this one. It was almost like a finality of it, even though it's been 5 years, 6 years, that like life is moving on. And again, it's like that. I go back to not like survivor's guilt, but like you feel guilty moving on with certain aspects of life, like putting some things behind you, whether it's NICU time, death, you know,
yeah.
a lot.
I mean, I think that's always going to be there though, right? I mean, I had someone say to me, I think it was on one of the podcasts, they're like, you're never not going to feel overwhelmed. It's like how you feel within those feelings and how you react to it. And it's like, those people were your family. You know, that feeling of grief is probably never going to go away fully. But it's like you've come up with strategies now how to cope with it, right? Is that like how you would think like therapy is going? Yeah. Because, I mean, they're your loved ones. You can't like – I have feelings of that like with my grandparents. Like my grandparents never got to meet, you know, my child. And I would have feelings of guilt with that. But it's like, why are we feeling guilty? I mean, I don't know where the guilt comes from. Like you said, maybe it's like survivors but I mean, yeah, I'm not sure about that. That would be something to like, which I'm sure you've asked your therapist, but to ask your therapist or a psychiatrist and be like, why do I feel these feelings of guilt? Right? Because you said it. Did you say that?
I did. I was like, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand why. And my therapist actually said, she's like, it happens a lot with people that, and you know, it's not a one size fits all thing. She's like, you're super empathetic and people pleasing, and you want everyone around you to be happy and feel happy.
Yeah.
She's like, that is the worst part, is like knowing that you can't help somebody.
Right.
And like that woman with the baby that was next to Thea, and like the rest of my family.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. Grief and overwhelming feelings are, not one size fits all.
Yeah, and I don't think they go away. I mean, my grandparents have been gone for a long time, and I still, if I see a picture, it's like a pang, you know, of like pain. It's,
yeah.
It's
not like so constant, but it's also, it hits you kind of out of nowhere. Like, I'll hear a song, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, in the car, I'm bawling my eyes out, and you're like, where did that come from? I wasn't even sad.
Yeah, but I feel like
happy memories.
That means you're like so in tune with your emotions though, and I love that because like I'm like a cry fighter. I feel like I'm like, no, I'm not gonna cry, you know, type of thing. It's like, but just cry.
I love to cry. I love to cry.
Oh my god, have you seen the movie Elemental?
Yeah.
And the boy just like tears all the time, and I think that's so hilarious because. Yeah, I'm like the opposite of that. I mean, I've come a long way over the years. I'll definitely like cry, but I feel like just from my Are you that boy? I can't. Wade, his name's Wade.
Well, I am that boy. My kids have to think that I'm some sort of lunatic because like some people like I cry, and I don't even hide it either because you know, I can't hide. I'm not one of the people that I can't internalize things because that's what gets me into, you know, these emotional pickles.
Right.
But they see me cry all the time when I'm happy. I cry a lot when I'm mad.
Yeah.
So they're like if I get really frustrated, like even like if I'm doing something around the house, like I was, you know, trying to fix a chair or a gate the other day, and I got so mad that I like couldn't do it. Like I just sat down and I cried.
Well, they must be really good.
And then I get up and I'm like,
you feel better, right? I need to get better at that. I bet your kids are really good at expressing their emotions though, right? If they see you express your emotions so well.
Sort of. Thea needs to tone down her expressing of emotions. She's like, and she's so like me that like it almost like
you clash.
Doesn't vibe well sometimes.
Yeah.
But like she's very good at it. And Violet I have taught them to like tell me. Mm-hmm. Like Violet will just scream out like, I am sad or I am frustrated.
I love that. That's amazing. I mean, I think that's so good to be just so in tune with your body. I mean, that's great. So what advice could you give to women out there, Amanda, that might be like either about to have a baby or, you know, are having some weird feelings, like would you say start looking for a therapist right now? That would be your number one?
I would, till I'm blue in the face, tell people that therapy, your relation, finding a therapist that you can have a good relationship with is probably one of the most helpful things, will be one of the most important relationships in your life if you finally find some. And you don't even have to be in crisis to have a therapist. It's nice just to have someone to bounce things off of. And like you said, like if you find the right one, they're like your bestie.
Right.
Like I love my girl, and I think there are so many therapists out there that have so many different specialties.
Yeah.
That you can find one. And if you don't feel comfortable with a therapist and whatever, just find a village, an online village of someone, close group of friends, family.
Yeah.
But having people is the most important tool that I've had. Like, and I think it's pretty universal that nobody likes to be alone in their feelings and their self. Yeah. Even people that like to be alone still need that, you know, warm hug or virtual warm hug. Like something to let them know that they are not in fact alone. Yeah. I found comfort, especially during COVID, in a lot of online support. Like I think I use Facebook more for the groups that I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, moms groups, grief groups, bipolar groups. Yeah. There is something out there for everybody that doesn't have to be just a therapist. But I think that is, for me, number one. Yeah. I can't go without a therapist. I can't. Yeah. I need someone an outsider to know me, but also not be so close, like a family member or a friend. That they know everybody in my life personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great advice. Yeah. Anyway, I was telling you about the doctor that's coming on the pod this weekend, and she said, you know, as a psychiatrist, that there is like a shortage of psychiatrists in the United States. And most of mental health is taken care of by primary care doctors who don't have the time, you know, within their 15-minute window of your appointment to talk through this stuff with you. So getting a therapist, getting a psychiatrist, a psychologist, whichever one you want to use, you know, it's really, really important, especially postpartum, to have that in place.
Yeah. And you're not weak I wish I spoke up sooner at all of my appointments after, like ask more questions, been more diligent. Because my OB's office was actually the one that pointed me in the direction of the therapist I have now.
Okay.
Because when I said that, you know, I just had a baby, my primary care was like, call your OB. OB says call primary. And finally I like just pushed back. And I think a lot of OB's offices have the resources, but don't dole them out like, you know, like they should, because they can shove antidepressants in your face. So whatever. But if you've been whacked with a really bad case of whatever, those don't always work.
Right.
And some people just accept, I asked for help. This is what they gave me. It didn't work. Push harder.
Like you feel stuck. But yeah, push harder. And I feel like even just like, I mean, I know I'm trying to work with pediatric offices to just offer a card, you know, to be like, all right, here's sleep support, take it. Like if this could be for anything postpartum, like here's a therapist card, here's a pelvic floor specialist card, you know, all these things.
Yes.
Because if they don't have time for it, I understand. I know they don't have the time for it. But just to be able to give some resources for people to find, like you said, if an antidepressant didn't work, or instead of just throwing an antidepressant at it, right? Let's get you the help you need. Here's a place to start, right?
I love my doctor, but they actually like tried to like multitask, and I felt a little bit like, that's when I was like, I decided to push harder, because they tried to kill two birds with one stone. They're checking me to make sure I'm recovering and healing. And they're like, by the way, like, how are you feeling mentally? And I'm like, I find this wildly inappropriate to talk to right now. I'm feeling vulnerable.
Right.
But also in every sense of the word. Like, I don't know. I think we need to be our own best advocate, because what we've learned, like you just said, with the shortage of psychiatric help, even meds, there are no meds to be given.
Yeah.
I had to switch one of them recently because nobody has any.
Wow.
But I think learning how to be your own best advocate, that's something you can learn in therapy, or you can learn just from, I don't know.
Yeah, being pushy isn't a bad thing. You know, you have to advocate for yourself. Yeah, I think that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much. Like I said in the beginning, like, I really appreciate you being brave and speaking out about this and telling your story. It's incredible. And I mean, I know it inspires me, and I know it will help so many women out there. More than one.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent.
All right, bye. Have a great day.